Okay. So we're recording now. Very good. Well, let me just first of all say thank you so much for taking the time on a Saturday to join us. I know we all have full lives, you have families and work, and of course the schoolwork and everything, and not to mention that you have personal lives too. So I really appreciate this. Now, I am here to answer your questions. Respond to anything that you'd like to know in reference to the class, the course that we're, and if there are anything else that you're curious about, or you have, like ambiguity about, and so on, this is an opportunity for us to delve into those areas, and hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions adequately and with the cohesiveness. So let's open the floor for anyone who would like to ask a question or offer a commentary or anything you'd like to say, or if you have any particular concerns or anything. It's absolutely collegial and safe room, so don't feel like, I can't say this or that, right? So please. Sean?
Um, I can't think of anything at the moment that I can think of. And also, sorry if my voice sounds kind of raspy. I'm currently dealing with a cough battle right now.
Okay.
I was curious
Uh,
about the
Okay.
media we're supposed to use for our presentation. On the script instructions this week, it said that we're supposed to use media permitted for educational purposes. I'm just wondering what the guidelines are for that and what media and images we're allowed to use.
Okay, given that this is strictly for this course, so you're not selling this material or publicizing it for any kind of for-profit purposes or anything, you can just go to Google and grab any images and put on there that
Okay.
fits your need. I do that regularly with announcements for courses because we're not selling anything. We're using it for educational purposes. Now, let me just say, for those of you who may be uncomfortable with PowerPoint and creating these multimedia presentations with voice and so on, that's an issue. Get in touch with me and we can think of alternatives for you to do your final project. In the past, I've taught this particular course, many, many times. And I've, rarely I've run into this issue where people get uncomfortable with the work. But if that's the case, do get in touch.
Okay.
Okay. So so that was Josh was asking a question, and Sean, you were waiting. So go ahead.
yes. One question I can think of for the multimedia presentation at the end. I'm currently working on the script and everything, but I wanted to know what's the minimum timeline we have on this? Like the project has to be 30 minutes long, or how long would you recommend the project has to be?
It's a good question. Well, obviously, if you hand a 5 minute thing, it's like inadequate, but 30 minutes is long. So make it, somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 minutes in that neighborhood. That sounds reasonable for this project.
Yep, that sounds better.
Yeah, go ahead. Your voice gets cut off, so could you repeat what you?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah,
I
okay,
was agreeing.
right, okay. So, anybody else?
So I have a question, but it's not about like any assignments.
Sure.
I was kind of curious on how you got into like teaching about, I guess, like technology and the cultural like side of that.
Mhm. You are asking me, Jolene, me personally, how I got
Yeah,
into
just
this place
yeah,
where I'm teaching? Okay.
absolutely.
Well, obviously, you have my bio, which you can look at. I when I was an undergraduate student, I started out as an engineering student, so I was good at math and physics and things like that. And people were just telling me, well, you should go become an engineer because that's where the money is, good career, etc. But when I reached the upper level part of the engineering program, I realized this is not my passion. It didn't feel right. So I dropped out of school, went to work, and then came back. Um, Went to Europe, spent some time there, and came back and went back to school. And this time I decided that, I'll just try media. I wasn't sure if that was my calling. And a couple of years passed quickly. I finished, and like many of you, I had a job and I was working. I went to a state university, so it was one of those situations that I don't know how I finished. So when I got my degree, I got into the field of video productions, corporate, media work, and relative to what we do here, preparing you for perhaps a future in these fields. So I started working, in the corporate world, and I realized it was nice, learning the culture of business, learning new technologies, always researching new technologies and so on. But I knew that I had to do more. So I went back to graduate school. And this time I focused on cinema studies because I always had a love for the art form of cinema. And then I got the bug for teaching because I was hired on as a TA, and I started teaching. Then the next step came where I realized that if I want to have a career in teaching, I need to have even more of an advanced degree. So I went back to school and got into a PhD program. This is where the floodgates opened, where I started focusing on philosophy and then philosophy of technology because I had a background in technology. I was eventually out of the corporate world and strictly in the academic world. However, when you work on technology, you're always in conversation, discussion, and intersection with the business world, as it were, particularly tech. So then, writing books, articles, and going to conferences and meeting people, intersecting with us. And then living in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, many of my friends are in the tech. So I just ended up, this is becoming my world. And I'm very comfortable being in this world and offering the critique that sometimes is absent in discourses. Because when you go to like business conferences, there's no critique. Everything is about celebrating new technologies, new innovations, and so on. So the ethical discussions are sometimes absent. But when you go to conferences that are infusion between the academia and technology sector, businesses, education, and so on, then collisions happen, and that's where I thrive. So that's how I got into this, and so here we are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Of course, it is my pleasure.
Very inspiring. Very.
Thank you.
I agree. That's incredible.
Thank you. I mean,
I
I'm
agree.
inspired.
That is inspiring.
Yeah, I'm inspired by you all because you are after a goal, and and you have full lives, and you haven't compromised, and you're going after it, and that's really the essence of life. In Japanese ideology as a whole, I mean, old culture, Japanese, and perhaps new culture as well, there's this word called, maybe you've heard it, ikigai. Have you heard that word before? Ikigai is the philosophy of being. Like the Japanese people, and I'm generalizing, of course, right? You may have a Japanese friend who says, I don't know, I don't buy into this stuff. But Japanese people as a whole believe that you come into this world and you have to find your purpose, and you have to find the reason for being. So ikigai is that. It's the word the term that is applied to this discovery of being. Why am I here is the question. And many of us ask lots of times from ourselves. So sometimes I kid around with folks and say, what is your ikigai? All right. So this is a question that I recommend that you ask yourselves from time to time. Not, of course, like every morning you go, oh, what is my ikigai? But every now and then say, what is my ikigai, right? And it's when we ask questions, when we're in inquiry, is when new questions arise, and then we get comfortable with asking questions and living with questions. Because there's so many uncertainties, especially with the advancement of these artificial intelligence technologies that are kind of like taking over our lives, and we seem powerless to them. But if we keep asking these questions, then we can get a hold of this dynamics between us and those forces that control society and in some ways our lives as well. So inspiration is reciprocal here. I am equally inspired by you all. So are there any other than logistics about homework and this and that? I mean, Jolene asked a question about my background. So is there any other questions that is like a burning question for you?
I have one question. I'm wondering if we will be given an example of a completed multimedia presentation that we could use for reference, just so that we aren't completely making this up out of nowhere.
Okay. This is a question that I'm glad you asked it, because it comes up every now and then. Now we have a little bit of time. We can have a discussion about it. Certainly I can go and dig up somebody else's project and just present it to you and say, here's an example. But I found in my pedagogical experience that when I do that, then the comfort zone for the student, it just sort of reveals itself. So, oh, I just follow this template and just do something like this. And then so it kind of just shaves the originality from the project. However, on the other hand, it may be useful to you. Just say, well, I see how this is done, because I've never done it before, right? So what do you all think we should do? You think I should just dig up an example, or perhaps more of a visual guideline about the project for you?
I mean, I think I would be okay with the visual guideline, but detailed. So when we're sharing our images, do you want them to be moving, or do you want them to just pop on a screen? How creative do you want us to get, I guess?
Okay. So let me rephrase your question, Tara, and say, do you want to do a project that I want you to do, or do you want to do a project that you want to do? So in other words, I'm going to put your mind at ease. Be as creative as you want to be, right? So long as, of course, right, your project is coherent and there's cohesiveness to it. You can keep it limited, keep it very simple, or you can go all out and be creative. It's not about me pleasing me. It's about you getting a learning experience out of this process. What I care about is two things. One is your content has to make sense, right? And secondly is that you were able to start and complete the project. The little nuances that are there, here and there, yes, exactly, Indy. Originality. It's an opportunity for you to feel comfortable to go in and be original and be creative. That's why I shy away from giving people examples, because then it becomes like, well, okay, these are the requirements, and I'm going to just follow the prompt, blah, blah, blah. There are others who teach that way, and I don't think it's fair to students to do this, where I just give you strict guidelines. I say if you veer off of this guideline, then I'm going to shave points off your project. If it were up to me, I wouldn't even grade things. I'd say pass or fail. I mean, do you put attempt into this, and am I seeing effort, and am I seeing learning taking place, and all that. So don't worry about, well, I missed the cue here. I missed, oh, this reference is not matching APA, and oh my God, what's going to happen? As long as the work is there and I'm looking at content and saying, oh yeah, this, like Tara is really getting into this, and she's put a lot of effort into it. And I'm seeing that she's teaching me something about, say, for example, you picked up a project like autonomous vehicles, right? And you're looking at its technology, and you're also looking at its impact on society, right? Which is more important than just looking at researching how it works, right? Because this class is it's a humanities class. I mean, let's always remind ourselves that we're in a humanities class. So we're looking at the intersection of technology and humanistic values and humanistic expressions about life. Like this Zoom technology is so wonderful that we're able to connect this way. Otherwise, we'd have to travel to a place and sit down, and it would be logistically a nightmare. So it's a wonderful technology, but to what extent is this expanding the digital divide between us and, say, people who live in Rwanda, or people who live in far outskirts of Indian villages, or they don't have access to any internet or anything? Are we gaining an advantage over them? Is this coming at the cost of them working for us? So the social justice issues enter the pictures. So I want you guys, if the question is, well, what do you want from us? I want you to think about these issues aside from just giving a survey of technological parts of your projects. Does that make sense? And if you feel this is too much to ask, just, let's talk about it.
I think I'm okay. I mean, it's just expanding our minds to go past just the boundary of the subject itself and what's affecting all the way around that subject as well. So I think I'm good now. Now I know I ain't got to worry about APA too much, because I shall be looking. So I'm good. So I thank you for it. I'm good.
Good. Yeah. Glad to hear that. Yeah. And thank you. Yeah. So how's it going with the class? Do you feel like you're learning some things? I know it's just, we're still not in the halfway through, but you like what's happening with the class?
I do really enjoy the class. It's definitely expanding my knowledge and making me think of just different perspectives. And I've actually really enjoyed it. And I've been able to communicate that to even my friends are like, so right now I work in the corporate world, and we do, from what I've learned so far, it's big data. So I was able to have that discussion with my supervisor. I'm like, hey, I had never realized what it is that we do. And I was able, this class taught me exactly that. And so it's just really great to have a expanded knowledge of not only what's going on in the world with social media, but then also bring it into my my professional life as well.
Yeah. I think the connection you'll make, sometimes it happens. It's like Zen philosophy, where you practice, you practice, you practice, you don't think, and the next thing you know, knowledge has come to you. It's like, where did it come from? So taking these classes, basically college education, and then completing your program, whether it's bachelor's, master's, PhD, whatever, and then you're in the workforce. Suddenly the insights kick in. So the ultimate goal of this class, or others like it, is for you to gain insight and wisdom about the connections that may have not been apparent to you between this knowledge that you gain and the work that gets done outside of the classroom in your workforce and so forth. And next thing you know, you have wisdom that you weren't aware of, and then it becomes a natural thing, right? Where then you get comfortable with asking even more questions, being an inquiry, and then next thing you know, people will notice that, right? Say at your company, so, well, in this capacity, you're underutilized. Because this is how the capitalistic world works, right? They look at the workforce as resources, right? Human resources, which personally I have a problem with that terminology, but it's there. So it's part of the reality that we live with. So they look at the human resource, wow, this person is being underutilized. Let's go and see if she can work in this capacity. Next thing you know, you got a promotion without even asking for it, right? But this requires, the work. Sometimes it seems like this is busy work. I'm just doing too much busy work here, and what good is that going to do for me? Well, it teaches you a method of thinking, a method of practice of gaining knowledge that is not useful at the time, but it may be useful down the road for you. But there is some busy work that happens in these classes, and I want you guys to always voice your opinion about that if there is some busy work in the design of the classes, and just so these surveys that come after classes, opinion surveys, aside from talking about your professors, but talking about the actual course, I said, well, there's too much busy work, or it's just right, or these papers can be done differently, and so forth. Okay. So, Jaylene, tell the class about canva.com.
Yeah, so hi everybody. Canva.com, it has a free part of it, but it is a creative platform that helps curate digital media. So if you want to have creative slides, you can also do your creative presentation through Canva, and it has like unlimited text fonts you can use. It has different like pictures or different GIFs you want to add to it. It's a really fun platform. I use it for my work all the time, for digital media, and it's so helpful because it makes you feel like, wow, this is beautiful, and it's look in the way you want it to look, even if you don't have it all at your fingertips elsewhere.
Okay, so let me see if I understand, Jaylene. Canva.com is free for the purpose of these presentations that you might want to do. Okay, good. So and so the advanced products obviously cost more money.
Yes, but honestly, the free version, I used it for a very long time, and there's so much in there. There's thousands and thousands of like fonts and pictures you can use to help curate your presentations.
Great, thanks for sharing that. And
Of course.
yeah, I'm perfectly okay with that, you guys. I mean, whatever tools that you can find. One thing I don't like is for you to have to go and spend so much money just to create this presentation for the class. So don't do that if you have to spend money. Find, like Jaylene shared with us, a wonderful, product here that you could use for free and create your beautiful presentations. Now, Jaylene, I know for your work you do it, so you probably do it, for meetings and such, or just go on websites. What?
Yeah, so I was a creative director for Performing Arts High School. So I used it to create different posters and presentations for my arts staff that I had.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so it's easy for, say you submit this on our Blackboard platform. So it'd be easy for your fellow classmates to log on and just see the presentation.
Yes, it's something to where you can download it as like an MP4 PDF, whatever it is you want to download it as,
Okay.
which makes it easy to upload to any platform.
Okay. So thank you. So my recommendation is if you're going to use canva.com, make sure you test it out. So after you submit, you don't get a funky email from me saying, sorry, I couldn't open this. And so I can't give you a grade, And also remember that your final presentations are due on week 7. So, and then after that, we have a whole other week to continue the class, and you get another paper to write after that. So, and then during week 7, you do peer review, where you submit your stuff on discussion board, and your fellow classmates will be, offering comments and feedback and so forth. Now, remember, sometimes this happens. It's a logistical issue. People put that up on the discussion board and they forget to put it up on the assignment page. And then they end up with a 0. I'm like, why did I get a 0? I submitted this. 0 is because when I go to grade this stuff and I don't see it there, I have to put a 0 in there, and I can't rely on what you had on discussion board because things change, right? Maybe you got feedback from your fellow classmate and you decide to change something. So make sure that the final project, if it ends up being the same thing you submitted on the discussion board and you haven't made changes, that's fine. But the final needs to be submitted on the assignment page so I can grade it for you. So let's see, there's some things in chat. Let me see, I don't want to miss anything. Thank you, Jalen. You're so kind and generous. We really appreciate that. So y'all see Jalen's email address. If she's offering, ask me for tips or help if needed. No charge. Right?
Yeah, no charge, not
That's
at all. I'm here to help.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Of
I mean,
course.
that's what this is all about, right? We have a community. And I hope that you guys, I know this is online, it's difficult to build this kind of like close knit community and stuff, but I hope that you stay in touch with each other and then, beyond this class and build relationships with one another. And then, you never know. You meet somebody in one class and then later on in life, you see that person becomes an important part of your life, somebody who just turns you on to a job or introduces you to someone or becomes a friend, a friend for life kind of thing. These things do happen. Yeah. So, okay. So it's 12:30. Officially, we've completed our requirement for a half-hour meeting. But if there are any other questions or comments or anything, I'm happy to stay longer.
I am just curious, do you want any of us to put our UMass Global email into the chat to gain credit, or any special thing that you need us to do?
Okay, right now, at the very end, which is probably now, I want you to go to the chat. Thank you for asking, Tara. And just put your first and last name there. Then I'll give you credit for being here. So there's 12 of you. So I'll see 12 names on there.
I was just curious about the research we're supposed to do for the multimedia project. Does it have to be like scholarly journal articles, or can it just be like online websites or?
Well, the online websites, so long as they're reliable and valid. In other words, it's not just some dude with a blog. Right?
Yeah.
It's fine, yeah. But obviously, we want you to look at academically reliable, reviewed and verified kinds of sources. Yeah, there's lots of material out there online. That's good stuff. But verify, make sure that this is like based on good research and it's not just somebody's opinion. Right?
Okay.
What are we talking on the phone? I can't.
Okay.
I'm not able to put my name in the chat.
Oh, all right. Well, let me write it down. Who is this?
Eric Jones.
Eric Jones. Okay, Eric, I got you. Thank you. All right. Oh, we just had somebody just entered the room. Hello, is this Rachel? Okay, Rachel, we're done with the class. So you have to meet up with us next week. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop recording now. Oh, you were in early? Yeah, okay, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I thought you just walked in. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so let me go ahead and stop recording.